All right, it's time for the hard meet in our Kickstarter this morning. Moral, institutional and rule-based concepts of corruption, as well as examining Uganda's political realism and moral corruption. My name is Priscilla Regina Naloge, and you are most welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you can go over to the hashtag MorningAtNTV to engage in these discussions. We would like to hear your 2 cents because, again, the power of social media definitely goes a long way in shaping perspectives to some of these things. The backbone of it is that political realism is frequently criticized as a theoretical tradition that amounts to little more than a rationalization of the status quo and an apology of power. While corruption is commonly understood in behavioral terms, the dominance of political and economic approaches has hindered the integration of relevant psychological insights into the anti-corruption mainstream, and this definitely causing a rift between the examination of the social determinants and their assessment within a process of individual decision making. Now, due to the ongoing rout in the opposition's biggest political party, the National Unity Platform, springing from the parliamentary exhibition, we do have this discussion being given some depth of analysis with Honorable Alex Brandon Kintu, Honorable Member to Kagoma North County, and also the spokesperson for the National Resistance Movement Parliamentary Caucus. Later on, we're going to be joined by Honorable Twaha Kagabo, equally to give us his 2 cents on the matter. You're most welcome, Honorable.
Thank you.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay.
Glad to be here. I think this should be my first time in the year to be here, so I'm glad to be back.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, I want to first start by hearing your analysis of the parliamentary exhibition. We've had previous exhibitions last year that caused about some change. When the parliamentary exhibition did meet the social media, what was your take home? What came to your mind, and what did you do after about it?
First of all, different times have different experiences. Before I would answer that, if you look at how trends, especially like in churches, they've also changed. Traditional churches have gotten different names, and some other churches have been rebranded differently. And all of them would be specifically trying to answer the question of God or money or popularity or church celebrity. Now, as an institution of parliament, this is the 11th parliament, and I'm glad and very happy that I'm really in and working within it to understand more the depth of how parliament operates vis-a-vis to other neighboring parliaments. So, and also the tunes and styles of work in parliament has equally changed. The younger entrants like us, when we came in, we did not know the procedures of how speakers are elected, so we got that opportunity. We did not also understand, we used to see the leaders of opposition. I remember seeing the Professor Latigogan, but we could not even in depth understand what are their roles. You would only hear about the commission. If we would check about the last commission, say that of the Honorable Dombos and the Honorable Kasuli, we do not even understand what are their roles. With no offense, you might even ask some of my colleagues now what are the roles of this department. The Office of the Government Chief Whip, the leader of government business where I work, I'll surprisingly tell you, when I was contesting for the publicity, because that's an elective role, I did not understand my roles. I have been an everyday learning on job. So there are quite differences, and also the heat, the level of communication, the level of debate, and so many other things that you can really see. So last year and this year, I think probably it will be very interesting for people to know this, that our parliament, we came into service with lots of challenges. We did not have basically a very, very prudent time to exercise and understand. We had COVID around. Everything was extremely restricted. We did not even know the proper induction that is basically supposed to be done was all restricted. Before Christmas, we had to change some of our committees from both sides and also leadership in parliament. I was shocked to understand that these committees also should go through an induction, because I did not go through that in my first session, probably because of the factors around. So dynamics may change, but you know, the most important thing is also to appreciate the environment that probably we could be working in, and cope up, maybe do some bit of aligning, and proceed to our services of the country.
Okay, it begs the question of alignment has been there, but rules of procedure, are they being ignored or not given the oomph that they're supposed to be given in aiding our public servants do their job?
First of all, when you join Parliament, the first thing you're given at oath is the Constitution of Uganda and the rules of procedure. And we assume, all the authorities of Parliament assume, because members of Parliament come on credit of qualifications, that you will take some time, like I saw introducing the program, very eloquent and very dedicated, that you should go through, because at any given point as a member of Parliament, when you rise on the floor of Parliament, you must rise under the rule. So these are not discussed, because even in the church, if you are in church meetings or in the mosque, you must, every organization has its rules and procedure. So we do rise on rule. There is one profound member of Parliament, but I'm always proud, much as we have different political affiliations. Okay. The Honorable Semju, I will not be embarrassed to talk about him. He will never raise up. He raises up on a matter of rule, and he will quote the rule. So that's how it's supposed to be. But there are also some issues of national importance, which is also quoted in our procedure. And then there are some urgent issues. We have a question time every Thursday with the Prime Minister. So initially it's supposed to be, but it's also a big book. So you should have great interest, and I think that would question my colleagues that to serve this legislation role, you must understand some basic of law. So the rules, we are guided by our rules of procedure, and always Parliament has to do anything within as guided by the rules of procedure.
Okay. You mentioned something of a debate in there that I'd like to, delve deeper into in regards to this kind of information. We did have previous exhibitions. For example, last year we did have, the roads exhibition and then the health exhibition that caused some transformation, caught the ear of the President among other leaders to force and foster some change as far as public service delivery is concerned. However, the parliamentary exhibition has a twist to it, because this is sensitive information, first of all. This kind of information to the public could do more harm than good. Which side do you fall on? Is it doing more harm or is it doing more good at this time?
First of all, members of Parliament have very clear roles and responsibilities. But we are Ugandans, and when we are out there, we promise our people for the goodwill, because we really want to have a contribution. Because at my age, if I had money, I would start constructing schools, health centers, or give back the community. But I said, let me offer myself to the policy level, so that I can participate in policy formulation, so that we have good policies that will enable us to have good working environment, attract investment, and make every Ugandan at least have some average of income. Now, when this comes, it also comes with a lot of demands. Why do I give you that background? That sometimes members of Parliament or the institution of Parliament acts as lower government. If you would come to the office of the Speaker and see how many requests, how many petitions that flag the office, even to me in my small office as a publicist still do come. So sometimes you go an extra mile. You may do an extra mile to please a section of people or bail out something, and then the public will spell it wrongly. The public will judge you. The public will always say, let us have no more procedure. They will start questioning about the law, but we are talking about service delivery. And especially I am NRM. We have a contract of 5 years to serve Ugandans. So we must work tooth and nail to see that these services enrich out. We got a contract of 5 years. We now have 2.5 years. We must give accountability. So as Parliament in an institution, you'll find a member of Parliament single. We are 500 something So just count that, those are 500 something ambulances. Now, if you look at my pay slip and what my salary is and my emoluments, you will basically, because there is no official or special treat that will be given. The Constituency Development Fund was scrapped off with certain reasons that we want to get deeper and understand. So the Parliament may go out, like you have asked, indeed, but not in bad faith, as an institution, saving. The other day, you always see the Speaker of Parliament, because what she does, she's representing Parliament. This one comes for the fees, this one comes, he has a chronic disease, wants to go for medical treatment. But it's also kind of social corporate responsibility NTV can give down there in our communities. It might be, is it in the guidelines of working within the NTV fraternity? It could also be that the top management could set and make some decisions in the interest of the people. So not everything would be like for Parliament, you know, so there's a lot of talks around so many things and then this and this, but we need to go deep and see where does this. I'll give you a very, I don't know the rest how they will quote me. There are some people when we had that saga of the iron sheets, yeah, a few people did some probably abuse of them, but a few people consumed for the public good. And then you wouldn't expect that maybe they align with my grandmother's house in Lwengo or wherever it is. Now, it did excite some people positively, and some people criticized it. It was supposed to go into a certain region. But in that region, what would be the after effect of it? Vis-a-vis someone also who is in Maokota.
And speaking of after effects is what I want to understand from where you're seated and, you know, you being in that directly, in Parliament directly or in public service directly, of what harm is this nature of information to the public?
First of all, information is very nice, beautiful, lovely, whatsoever word you may use it, but it's also extremely dangerous. Let's look at the social media now. If you made a tweet, if you made a statement and it runs from the second person, someone in London will know what is happening here. So this information sometimes may be distorting people out of their thinking, especially God created us with two sides. You choose what is right and wrong. And understanding is not actually comparison. You choose to understand or not to understand. It's, I think that should be one of the first pillars that these human rights activists should start advocating for. So the information, how it's brought and how it's perceived is very wrong. Let's look at what is now recent, what is ongoing in Parliament now. The information came out, but you would question. I have done a course many years ago of the communication skills, and I think you should be better than me because this is what you do every day. But I think you must be able to shift what goes out. And as journalists, when you are running a story about me and somebody else, it should be balanced. Try to get what does Brandon say, or what does Irene say, so that you come up with content. But now we have a challenge that we have the communication excitement nowadays. Somebody wakes up and just says something. Last week, I saw a young man being aligned in court because you have followers, you blogging, you doing all these kind of things, you have fans, that excites you, so you just black out. So I think we also need to make some regulations. We need to put some strict that the information that goes out to the public is consumed nicely and for the purposes of
okay. God. All right. We're going to be having a traffic update. Then later we'll come back into the checks and balances of some of this information that was released on the social media. Stephen Bide is on ground. He's giving us a traffic update. All right, our Kickstarter does continue. Moral, institutional and rule-based concepts of corruption, of course, picking it up from the storm that was shaping last week, the parliamentary exhibition that caused a lot of turmoil and perhaps a potential division in one of the big opposition parties, the National Unity Platform. Now, earlier on, I was having a discussion in depth of the power of information, especially to the public, and information, this kind of information, how dangerous it is to the public. So you do have Honorable Alex Brandon Kintu, who was giving us his analysis and perspective on the opportunities of information, but also the dangers of information, especially to a public that is hungry and questioning as to why they have poor service delivery from whatever part of Uganda they come from. We have also been joined by Dr. Twaha Kagabo, MP Bukoto County South, Lwengo, and he's going to be offering us his perspective to it. But as I allow him to catch his breath, let me first go back to Honorable Kintu here and ask another question that we were building up to into the saga that is before us. Now, there is some information that was released, just to clip some of the things. This is something that people are not picking up on, but allow me to use it as, you know, a bed for a discussion. A cutout of some of the travel expenditures under the office of the Speaker. You do have, on 4th September 2023, 42 million Ugandan shillings, and this was being facilitation to the Dubai UAE to attend a training in pensions fund governance. And then that's on 4th. 2 days later, you do have the same office and the same person. You do have 487.5 million Ugandan shillings facilitation to travel to Nairobi, Kenya, 30 days. And then in the same month, so assuming that the 30 days have started on the 6th, you do have on the 20th, 16 days later, 318.75 million Ugandan shillings facilitation to Midrand, Johannesburg, South Africa, to attend a meeting of the PAP presidents. So already there's, you know, some loopholes in this. I want you to speak into this, because this is information that's very sensitive. Releasing it to the public, according to Ugandans, these are large sums of money, and we're not looking at them as the office of the Speaker. We're looking at them as the Speaker, the money being taxpayers' money being spent on the office of the Speaker. Let's speak into this information and how you would translate it yourself.
First of all, like we talked about the rules and procedure, there are also procedures in all these offices. The office of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, our office as leader of government business, and the opposition, and their budgets, and their allocations, and their entitlements. I do have entitlements as a publicity secretary, and I do have honorary as a publicity secretary. That's besides my normal pay from Parliament. Okay. But if we have just talked about information now, a few minutes ago, already look at the lapse of the dates. How can someone be in Nairobi 2 days and then he has to be away for 30 days? Parliament has been on. We all know the schedules of our speakers. These sessions are chaired by this one, then the other is chaired in shifts, and they are always. And even when one speaker is in the chair, the rest, the other one is already in the office meeting people and doing other administrative. So this information is out. Like we said, information is power and it's also poison. There are some selfish people within reach. Uganda, we are also growing multi-party democracy. Dr. Twaha is here. He's from the National Unity Platform. If I sat with him in the car and we are driving to Kagoma, they will definitely say he's a mole. I have given him money from the NRM. As if he's not human, he's a man of my generation. Maybe I would also have to extend a health facility in my area. And he should be a friend because we're humans. Today I'm in NRM, the other day I can be in DP, I can form up a political party if capacity comes around me. So this is also political dent and damage. And there is some bit of hatred that people want to create on Parliament. Okay. And yet, they demand a lot from us as members of Parliament and the institution.
So, Dr. Twaha, as you said, we are always demanding a lot from our representatives in the Legislative House. But this information having come out public in the parliamentary exhibition, when you heard of this information, when it came to your ears and eyes, as a member of Parliament, away from your party affiliations and politics, how did you translate this information?
Good morning, viewers. Dr. Kagabo Twaha, MP Bukoto South. I'm glad to meet you. I must apologize to the viewers. I've been a little bit late, even the jam, but nevertheless I've been able, by God's grace, to make it here, not so late. I must say this is not very uncommon from the what awashes all other specialties, disciplines, departments and agencies. I'm a surgeon by profession, but I must tell you that even before I joined the politics, such information would come. They would tell you how doctors' liver goes, they would tell you how doctors take people's livers, kidneys and that kind of thing. So I must say, so when this happened, it's not an anomaly. This is what we expect from, like you said, an expectant community, and a community that has been a little bit upstaged by the social media. There are a lot of advances in social media this time, whereby to a credulous and gullible community like we have here, it's very easy for somebody to cut off a head and then Photoshop it onto us, and they would say Twaha or so and so has been that. So, but the bottom line is that whoever gives this information that is so unjustified just gets a pinch of it. All right. For instance, take a note, like if a speaker has moved out, it's not very uncommon in Parliament for a speaker to be invited outside, and in turn she decides to delegate. Recently, I was, not so many months ago, I was in Ghana representing the speaker with an entourage, with chairman, head and so on. And this was a speaker's invitation. And once such a thing happens, because some people who are perplexed by the happening, we are saying, and she never traveled. All right? All right? They must understand that a person of her stature, of her office, like any other office holder, has the jurisdiction, and the volition is hers, okay? Whether to move by herself or to have an emissary to represent her. So, whereas they are complaining that such a thing happened and she never moved, I'm alluding to the community and the public that she delegates people to represent her. All right? Such things have been happening away from maybe that the speakers movement and so on, what has just awashed the National Unity Platform and whatever. I must say that it's very unfair and uncalled for any office or any Ugandan, moreover, who is a person who looks a little bit substantive, and to pass out unread information to the community, unfully baked information to the community, because the community we have is credulous, will just perceive it the way it is, all right? And this will cause a lot of damage, hatred to the politicians, with the leaders, to the government as well. But remember, it will come back again to bite, because what goes around comes back, and at any time it will come to the instigator at one time and be biting.
Okay.
All right.
You have been in this same position as Matthias Mpuga,
oh, yes.
or is currently, and you are given pretty much same conditions within same time frame to return that money, apologize. You returned it to then a leader of opposition in Parliament. He said, no, take it to the direct source from which you got this money from. So it was a back and forth. And with how things were handled with you, what do you make of how the National Unity Platform is handling the situation with Honorable Matthias Mpuga?
I must say it's very good to learn the hard way. Sometimes we have a saying that the hard way is the only way. I must tell the community and the country that it is unfortunate that majority of the politicians in the country, we do learn it on the veranda. We learn the politics from the veranda. Very few of our colleagues go through the institutions to be very molded in the better ways. We happen to learn it on the street, like they say. When you go to school, they give you sessions, and after sessions you are given tests. Away from that, the community or the world will give you tests that will teach you a lesson. So as a younger legislator by then, I hadn't grasped the procedures and the whole methodology of Parliament. It was unfortunate that cutters of my party, the perfidious leaders in the party, led me into what seemed to the community to be a boondoggle, like a corruption, But after me being shown what the exact thing was through the rules of procedure, Financial Management Act and everything, I came to regret myself and say, oh, this, I thought I was going to make a mileage, because the leaders were
I know that you were taught to the same card,
exactly.
morality.
Morality. You understand?
It's saying, as the National Unity Platform, we're standing for morality and we're going to do the right thing. And so it's upon that you, as a young politician,
really
because decided to please.
Exactly. Yeah. I hadn't delved into the deep archives of this matter. Is this money a boondoggle? This is an event of corruption or what, and so on. When they called me, they said, "You, our man, you come. This is our time to shine.
You have
to express." I have regrets. Yeah. Of course, I regretted a lot what I went through. But of course, like any other man, like I've told you, the hard way is the only way. I learned a lot. I learned how government operates. I learned to be very careful with the politics. I remember getting a very important call from one of the leaders in the country, telling me that politics can be dangerous at times if mishandled. So, I must say that unprepared, when you have to deliver information to the public, especially as a top-notch leader, it is very, very prudent that you prepare it, synthesize it, sieve it out. I would liken this to a proposal, a research dissertation, that you have to get all your data, analyze it properly, and be able before you release it to the community. So when you learned, things the hard way, did you go back to your party and, express that same expression of learning, understanding and wisdom that you had gotten from knowing exactly what that money was and how it came to your account and what its duty and purpose is? Where did you relay that information to your party leaders for them to understand? Unfortunately, our party, it's not very different from the way they are handling Honorable Mpoga's case. Our party, I think, is one that rides on to populism, and recently I was likening them. An analogy I can quickly make is somebody who is just yearning for likes for Instagram, social media handles and that kind. That's why they're always in a hurry to push out unbaked information. It was very hard. I must tell you that with some information, it is very hard for you to amend the bridges once they have been broken, given the manner and the nature, the castigation, the ostracization that precedes the events. So I would liken it to a broken egg. You can hardly suture the shell of an egg once it is broken. So that's why up to now, we are at loggerheads. Okay. Yeah. In your perspective, how should the National Unity Platform have handled this information, given your experience? It is very deplorable and disheartening to see that a political party, when you hear political party, in the standards, in the stakes of National Unity Platform, the runners-up in the previous 2021 election, you would imagine that it has fully organized organs at the Secretariat that will be able to handle all the informations that come, synthesize them. I must say that National Unity Platform celebrates the biggest number of lawyers in the country. Some of those who rush to give even pro bono services, others come to be their philanthropy and so on. You see that when they have somebody who has been arrested, free political prisoners, what. So I would imagine when such a thing happens, they would have to allow time, get off time, sit and delve into the matter, synthesize it, and discuss collegially as a team to see when should we release this information, what type of information are we supposed to release, what notch volume are we supposed to use while releasing this information? Oh, by the way, can't we go reticent at a while? Are we going to die? Are we going to be debating on everything, making a remark on everything? Sometimes you need to be reticent. I was going to liken the situation of the Mabati saga. You remember that one that happened recently. one of the top-notch politicians in the country, and that is President William Museveni, whereas the community was very eager, requesting and beleaguering him to have a comment on the thing, up to now the old man has gone quiet over the issue. So, and the thing has moved, because that's what we are saying, that some information is not ready for the community. All right. So that is it. So the National Unity Platform, I must say, they must. This is going to be a lesson for the younger politicians and maybe to those that run the parties, more so the National Unity Platform, to be very avid and smart while handling some information, because if they fail to handle such a basic information that cause alterations in a small party like that, what if we transform to national leadership and now we are handling national security matters? Okay. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Kintu, in this regard, the situation is out there. The National Unity Platform, we spoke to the president yesterday, and he said that because the information was already public, they could only react, or their hand was forced to react to that information. And so having reacted in the way they reacted, and having given the conditions to the Honorable Member of Parliament Commissioner also. One, of course, you do have to return that money. Two, you have to apologize to the Ugandans, and then three, step aside as a commissioner. And so those conditions, I want to have your analysis on how the National Unity Platform reacted versus how they should have reacted, and also, are those the best ways to treat and deal with one of your members, especially in a party that is having the strongest opposition currently?
First of all, the Honorable Twaha has just explained to you, we have different backgrounds, we raise our kids differently, and sometimes politics, not even sometimes, if you make analysis and you pose the question, what is the most growing activity in Uganda? Economic activity, it's politics. Because even at a level of LC1, people are competing massively. You see now in our constituencies, people are dying, the to-bes, because they only look at the quest of money, not service. Now, when we have leaders, what's the formation of a political party? That's what Honorable Twaha has said. These people have not been inducted. I was studying to become a Catholic priest. I spent 14 years in the seminary. But maybe my calling was not satisfied. I did not complete. Because they give you a training of 16 years so that you can be thoroughly trained. Who is a priest? How are you conducted to the community and to your God? Which we don't do here. Somebody will finish university, like he told you, induction. Some of us got an opportunity to go through students' leadership at the national level, youth councils. So we know where to say what and when and how. But somebody will sell his land because he wants to go to parliament. For one thing, money. So when such people climb into leadership, they are political, they create a lot of political accidents. That's what we have in all parties. You see what is happening in FDC, NOP, and sometimes in my own party, NRM. So when you look at some people also who think, when you govern an institution, I'm sure the management at NTV are flaws, the editor, the information, the corporate. In NRM, we have structures. Right from the LC1, we have a chairperson. We have up to the national level. And if it was possible that we put structures in graves, we would. That's how organized we are. We have strategically know how to handle issues. We have issues. You have just heard recently our treasurer saying they have taken so much money from our house. And it was handled and it was rested because there are certain procedures that have to be followed. Now, how did they handle? Let's look at the personalities. Who are these guys? Our voters are very brave. When I started contesting, I was living in Europe, so when I started contesting in 2011, I came up thinking it's a free world. I started into shots. So people started throwing like, look at this guy.
It's your mind that we care about.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, who cares? I put on my shirt. As person who was, as somebody who was extremely youthful, then I'd prick my ears, I have some tattoos on my body, so I'd do armless and say, it's a free world. I started receiving criticism. The other day someone gave a comment, see, he's very surprised how fast I transformed, changed my outlook, and because that's what society demands. But here you get someone from this institution, because all we want money, and that's the populism. Twaha said, the likes and what, I'm talking so much. We have so many people that talk a lot of nonsense in this country.
Okay.
Even speaking good English, but when they are speaking nonsense. So, the formation of these leaders, are we giving leaders? We have a party now, and we have colleagues even in parliament. When you ask them which party, like FDC, somebody will say, I'm in Katonga, I'm in Ajanankum, because so and so is there. So individualism, they would have addressed it the way he said. First of all, the party is not responsible on a commission for as long as they have recommended the commission to parliament. We vote. There are procedures on how somebody should be thrown out. You saw what we went through when we were throwing out to the Honorable of Mitiana. So for you, as a political head, should know your roles and responsibilities on your legislators.
Okay. In that regard, then let's look at how, because it's not only Matthias Mpuga that is on the hot spot here. You do have, this is a table for people from which 3 of them are NRM, having also allegedly shared of the chunk of money, 400 million Ugandan shillings. So on the side of NRM, how are they handling this situation?
First of all, as a party, we are not in charge of administration of parliament, and we have a secretariat. If such issues happened at the secretariat level, at a party level, like right now, we started actually yesterday our processes of updating and registration of a register. Such processes have logistical issues, so there is money. Now, if that money is mishandled, as NRM, we shall take keen interest. Now, this is parliament. We have entitlements in parliament. We sit on different committees with the Honorable Twaha, and we also have entitlements on those committees, how the facilitations go, what are the per diems, and what are the procedures. I have not spoken to any commissioner, but all I know that also a commission, I am a chairman of a school, a board chair. We have also our do's and don'ts in the school. But recently we sat as a board and made some resolutions. And for as long as resolutions are made and binding, they can be put at use. Though we have not seen this yet. I was watching an interview of Professor Latigo, again on the same. He said, actually we have just been off air talking with you here about Kenya, that these leaders of opposition in Kenya, when they go, there is a package, because they are at a level of a prime minister. So if a precedence has been set, there are also some unwritten rules. Let's look at our Central Executive Committee in the NRM. We had a precedence, which is not documented anywhere, or it's not in our constitution, that at least let the speakers serve 2 terms.
Right.
And that's the contradiction we had with the Right Honorable Kadaga and Jacob Olanya. Said he served 10 years as deputy and you served 10, and this was our agreement. We have also, even in the law, I'm not an expert in law, but there are those common sense, common understanding of the law. So whoever these other 3 commissions have received, we have a precedence that the former LOP is going out. Maybe it starts now, because everything must have a start. And I don't think this country and parliament, the concerns, the demands we put on government to deliver services and ask them for the accountability, the money that we have appropriated, we cannot go wrong. They cannot go wrong. Because the commission is in charge of the welfare of all of us, me, Twaha, and including everyone in that parliament. So it should be extremely sensitive to make sure that there is no outuse of that. So for whoever, whether the other 3 will also do, let's wait and see at that time, because the term of office is 2.5 years.
As Doctor, you come in to respond. I also, after you respond, I also want you to speak into the legality of this matter, because you having then been in the same predicament and understood, you know, the rules of procedure and all, and what is worth your benefit as a member of parliament in your different capacities. What is the special status that is coming with this money?
Maybe I would be delighted if I retorted and reprised on the same question, because I'm feeling that it forms the bed, the bed for this discussion. You're asking that the National Unity Platform went ahead to summon the commissioner, Matthias Mpuga, had a meeting with them, and then came out with ultimatums, decisions, all right? And those were can you return the money? Can you step aside? And can you apologize, kneel before our
the grand ayatollah?
All right?
Not kneel per se, but
Can you please come on your knees for our foot soldiers, our people, so that we can make that will serve. You will have served your sentence and that kind of thing. So I must say that was below the belt. What a poor performance by the Secretariat at NOP and whoever masterminded it, because now one of the core values and ideologies in National Unity Platform, that's why I want to warn other coming leaders that whereas we may jump onto the track most of the times, but we should do it with caution, because sometimes we may jump on the track that is going to hell. One of the ideologies is constitutionalism in National Unity Platform, but you wonder whether they walk to the talk, because now this case, they have no mandate. Any party has no mandate to come into this case, sit the plaintiffs, hear their plea, and then come with the verdicts, because this thing has not come. Nobody has petitioned the parliament. Nobody has taken this matter to the IGG, because you being a party, a political party, does not mean that you've taken the national organs that are there to handle political issues, I mean corruption issues. So I have a feeling they should have either petitioned the parliament, have this matter taken to the IGG, well investigated, and at the time of giving a verdict, whether it is positive or negative, that's when they would have come in and say, you, our people, this is what it is, and you are culpable for such and such. And to us now, because already your hands are red, this is what we have to do for you. Morally, you know what our norms are, the drifts. You are not supposed to get involved in this, and this. Can you either apologize, or we are saying bye-bye to you? So to me, all the steps, the hurry was so dramatical that actually relegates to all the proceedings that the National Unity Platform as very petulant and uncalled for.
Okay, all right. Now, one of the things that have been pushed at the front of this conversation, especially by the National Unity Platform leader, is the word morality.
Yes.
Or basing all the decisions that were quickly made on morality. I would like to get your definitions and understandings of morality, the word morality, especially political morality. Let me start with you, Mr. Kintu.
All right.
There is a common saying that culture begins at home. What are the morals? It has also a cultural aspect, because culture is a set of values and norms. So the moral accordance to someone may be, you know, it's a big thing to explain. I'm trying to remember now. There are people who are moral in a spiritual way, and sometimes you cannot assess to go deeper in this person and say, is this holiness factual, or it's a question of getting something? There are people who are extremely humble when they are targetful. So that kind of moral sentiments, they are a bit questionable. I can be in a situation here because I have nothing to do, but I want to achieve this. Let me live in not myself, in pretense, and keep quiet till I achieve. So the moment you achieve what you wanted, you change. You have been immoral because you have deceived the consent and also the public utterance of people. So when it comes to political morality, that's also something very different. We make statements that are immoral, we insult, we religiously deceive. A politician will be moral and quote a Bible verse for the purposes of catching that vote, and people will clap, but you will never live to it. The other day we had a Thanksgiving, and I know of one politician who is too religious that even when he's going to cough, he will first say prayer, that God help me that if I have this cough, I'll not infect the rest. But deep inside, this person does things that are contrary to what you would look, the outlook. So the political, and you know, the political morality is also, it's seasonal. It changes by trends. Those days, the days of Dr. Frank Nawiso, the one who was in the constituency where I am, they would just walk and maybe have a public talk together. People vote, they will go. No public speaking, no posters, no fighting, no exchange of words. I don't remember my grandmother who raised me that sent me to Nawiso to ask for school fees. But political morality, society has charged. If you don't give money for the toothache, then you're a bad man. I don't know how many surgeons my brother makes because of surgery that he makes. Because how will voters, he will want to help, even with a good heart. But there are those forcefully that are demanded. But it's also business.
Okay.
He has employees to pay. Where is he going to get? So immorality, morals have been circled into different ventures.
Dr. Twaha, what is your definition and understanding of morality as it's being pushed as something that is needs to be given attention to and must be dealt near? As you
so I will deviate a little bit from my colleague and be discussing context of the situation that has awashed us. When this matter came up, people were discussing it. When they realized that probably this issue was legal, Parliament passed it, because there is no way a commission is going to sit down and sanction for payments that are not accounted for in the budget framework paper, because this deals with the monies, and monies have to be appropriated and allocated for the same. So when they found this, so the committee got a little bit divided and saying, no, was it moral, even if it has been passed? Is it moral for you, Twaha, to sit with these boondoggles and decide to take this money? That aspect of morality. So this is what I want to tell you. First of all, they must understand, for us in medicine, for those of you that there's what we call a consensual reflex. We are three here. When two of you agree on a thing, however egregious it may be, however nefarious it may be, by that reflex, I have two. So a consensual reflex means that when this eye, there is a pebble that has fallen into this eye. By default, this eye also weeps, and the nostril also what? There's a rhinodia that comes out. So sometimes you may not have to have an omnibus, a segregative castigation of an individual that is party to a group that made a decision. Okay. But again, when you come here, what people have to understand that what made morality is a continuous integration. It is not fixed on one thing. Maybe that's what he was trying to build. What looks moral in art, in music, for instance, it's a very glaring and candid picture that we usually see. When our artists come, they come up with funny attires before us, glittering, sometimes for the theisists, they may have to think that, oh, that is diabolical and satanic. All right? But to the artists, it is moral. Expression. You understand? It is moral. Nice. So that's why these people must sit down and be taken through drills of institutional management so that they can understand what is moral and immoral in a different discipline. For us in medicine or surgery, we have what we call principles and practices. The principles and practices of surgery are very, very different from the principles and practices in journalism. So that is, I think that's the bottom line of the thing. So most of the time, they may look at politicians and think whatever they've done is immoral, but in the principles and practices of politics, for instance, there's a common saying, they usually say, they liken the politics to a game. Politics is a game. Politics is muzanyo mubi, muzanyo gwabiki, but like any other game. So you cannot bring the principles and practices of football and incorporate them into rugby. There is tripping, there is doing what. So, and you, the player of the particular discipline, for instance, politics, you have at any time always to work onto the brains of your audience, Whether it is going to be moral or immoral, but that is the principle and practice of the game.
So this information is immoral to the public.
Yeah.
We can rightly say.
But to us.
To you it is okay, but to
yes.
the public it's immoral for us to have this information and be aware of these things that are happening. But also begs the question, because it now gives us a picture of perhaps it's firefighting within the House. Perhaps there's sides that are not agreeing on whatever things happen in Parliament, and so these are tools that are now being used, to force a hand here and there, or to foster certain things to happen on the floor of Parliament or within the parliamentary precincts. And so, how do you do surgery to such a situation, Mr. Kintu? How is the Parliament going to do surgery to this situation, because it's making the Legislative House look bad?
First of all, how the information flows, the level and the mode of communication must change. Just slightly back to what Twaha said, that what is entitled, my first time I have been receiving money, but the first time I received money from the government of Uganda, we were still legislating outside in the bigger tent. So we're there, and then we're going through, I checked my phone, and I saw 200 million. And this 200 million was given to me and the rest of my colleagues to make sure I have a car that will help me go to the constituency. People started being immoral now to me, calling me and telling me how I should spend this money. Buy an ambulance, buy a truck, buy a bus for the constituency. At least I'm from Jinja. There are those constituents that go as far as Karamoja, Kotido, very far even where a Starlet cannot go. So society became immoral. And what was in the public, to answer what you are saying, they have gotten 200 million. There are some serious gurus here who are driving cars of, 700 and something millions. And they are not in politics. So society, our communities must be informed appropriately. But also you, the fourth estate, must help us. We had an incident in Parliament where our salaries were reducted forcefully because we used not to get what we are going to get to do tomorrow. But none of you in the media mentioned about it. But if there is probably a trip for our committee for benchmarking, society will raise. But why don't you allow these knowledgeable people that have been inducted? Because with politics, you don't look at an experience. The Mpugas reach where they are. They have gone through a process. These great, like the great woman Cecily Ogwa went through a process. If you don't allow your legislators also go through a process, benchmark, see how things happen, let me borrow and bring it here. And society says they are wasting taxpayers' money. The other day, I was discussing with someone, and he categorically told me, you MPs and government officials that go abroad for medical services, you are wasting government taxpayers' money. But do we have that competence here in this country? And would we want to save the life? So the communication must be changed, that people stop having a bias on this institution of Parliament. Because they are the most, and even some of us probably, we also put pressure. I want to tell you, we have so many discussions and requests in those big offices, the Speaker and the Deputy as members of Parliament, because we are strained. Then you strain, you go get something delivered to the people, but they still want more. So one, the flow of information must be extremely clear. And like Honorable Twaha has said, if the information is coming out of the institutions, let these self-seekers, and we have a big departments, we have a communication director, let us shift, like in the army, you don't, the prison, if you just walk in to see, they will say first get clearance from the IGP. So we should clear the information. We have a Minister of National Guidance and Information. That ministry should also take lead.
Dr. Twaha is itching, but I'm also itching to ask him a follow-up question in that regard. Yes. Because this is mid-term, honestly, and the 11th Parliament by far has had more scandals out to the public. Perhaps the other parliaments have had scandals, but kept within the House. Yours have come out to the public more than the other previous parliaments. And it begs the question, building up to 2026, how threatening is this? And what kind of politics are we shaping towards the next elections, especially on the opposition side, because the National Unity Platform is now the biggest opposition by numbers in Parliament.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know whether you allow me amend that word scandals, because it only qualifies to be scandalous if it has been qualified by either authentic bodies, court, and the usual.
As a citizen of Uganda, I am an authentic body to this country. Mr. Kintu said we entered into contract. So as a part of the contract.
So, again, I must say, Parliament, there is no way, my colleague was saying that probably very stringent measures should be put across Parliament as checks and so on. But remember that one of the visions and the motions we have in our Parliament, it's a people-centered Parliament. Okay, it's a free entry and exit to everybody. So we have actually Parliament. It's the pillar that should be very transparent, very easily accessible to the people, because that's always where their voices are. Because that's why they send us here. They cede their powers into us to represent them. So there is no way you are going to curtail them from talking whatever they. But I must say that it is not going to happen. You are talking about the remedies. We are never going to prevent this kind of hearsay. Never at all. Because, first of all, there is a group always that runs on the credulous, the garrulous, we win our support. Most opposition, where we come from, we get our vote, our support through this kind of mechanism. Displaying unauthentic information to the community, make them look more downtrodden, so that they can have a sympathy vote in response to whatever they're suffering. And of course, we usually tell them a lot. So as long as there is always a competitor whose methodology is that, you are never going to have permanent remedies for such. But what we have to say is that as Parliament, as politicians, we shall always keep our chins up, never place a depressive mode, and always do whatever we're supposed to do, because usually there's a saying that he who locks a leopard into a dog's pen is never devoid of regrets, and whoever harvests honey is never fearful of bee stings. So we have always to develop a thick skin, and as long as we have in our conscience, we have a feeling that we are doing the right thing. Now back to what you're talking about, that the 11th Parliament has looked out to be probably the most scandalous and so on, but at the same time it has been the most flamboyant Parliament as well. All right, sometimes those things may move in tandem, and believe me or not, it has been very popular. We are very popular, and we have no worries. We've represented our people at all levels. We've supported our people. We've been very much incapacitated to take whatever is necessary to our constituencies, and we are very sure come 2026 we shall be able to walk back to Parliament.
I believe each one of you has had a dry skin at one point in life, and usually the remedy is put some Vaseline or lotion on it instead of hydrating, because it is really dehydration that is causing your skin to dry. I believe you understand where I'm going with this. But let's talk about the final thing as we close this subject. Money, money, money. You know that song? And so it looks like the money is truly
some South African artist.
Money is the root cause of all evil. By and large, from the smallest unit to the biggest unit. Right now, as we speak, of Parliament, Mr. Kintu, the trend recently monetized politics. It's been more visible during the campaign seasons into elections, but now it's become a bit more visible away from that period of time in politics and democracy and governance into now ordinary occurrences here and there, corruption cases coming up through here and there, money being used to divide the House perhaps, divide political parties and so on and so forth. Where do we go from here, and how is this going to be affecting the country's development at the end of the day?
We have been discussing and talking about our electoral reforms because the issue of money basically is involved into the period of elections. And the issue of money, I don't know who created money. I have a group of young boys, and I also make jokes sometimes.
Do you prefer we go back to barter trade?
No, that's like extremely ancient now. But we also joke, we always say, as a young man at our age, if you don't have money, you rather die. Because you'll be useless. You can't enjoy anything nice, you'll not go out and chill with the big boys or the big girls. So money is man at a different level. Even in churches now, you'll profoundly find a pastor, and that also comes to the issue of immorality. A pastor will preach and they will say, give if you serve God faithfully. When you see these pastors driving Lamborghinis and you ask them, where do you get the money? When you serve God faithfully, God rewards you faithfully.
But the Pentagons are not coming up.
You know, and then the churches, you will find a pastor dressed in that simplest way. And he or she is going to anoint you and bless you to be rich. And the issue is money. If I ever find time, I'm going to write a book. Is it a question of God or money? So the money issues when it comes to politics, like I told you, it's an occupation. We have occupational politicians. There are certain guys I saw in the gallery when I was still a student at the university. Every afternoon, they are now my colleagues. They are now my colleagues in Parliament. So, because you want to attain that level, you want to have that employment, you'll have to invest. Our people, our voters, in Usoga we have even songs. They say, whoever gives you is the one you give. So because the
voter invests a vote in you, you have to invest in them.
It's a give and take. They will even give songs
Dr.
to say,
Twaha,
if you don't give, you don't get.
Just under a minute to talk about that.
Over. Of course it is money. There's a saying that when the going becomes tough, the tough get going. So it was unfortunate that when in 1995 Constitution as amended, when it broached in the issue of multi-party politics, it was not by default that we would have to monetize politics. Again, as maybe a clandestine and sinister movement by maybe the powers that be, because what I've seen is that politicians, more so MPs, we are captured into this, blindfolded this to help the central people government to deliver services in the community in that way. So by that, there is no way you are going to run out of money. You need to have money if you are to.
So multi-partisan politics, but also multi-moneysan politics. So which side do you fall on, especially you as the voter? Because these are the things upon which you're supposed to do the weighing and scaling, the checks and balances, so that your vote is worth another 5 years of either more of these scandals, divisions, or better governance and politics and democracy for our country. The power is in your hands. But we also do have Stephen Bide, who's on ground in Seguku. The market